Expansion.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andy F in the building.
Rafa.
Senor, great to have you, my brother.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
Great.
We had a couple of 4 stars today. It's very rare for us. Usually it's like,
yours
boom,
have
we just go.
Brother,
Brother,
we'll
get this mic pointed directly at your mouth like that, brother. We want everybody to hear your beautiful voice with your Egyptian accent and everything. No, just joking. Gents and ladies in at home or tuning in today, Andy F, for those that don't know, he's a music producer. He is a house and electronic music DJ as well.
Broadly speaking.
Broadly speaking, and that's something I want to talk about because that's a world that I often fuck up and get confused and end up looking like an idiot, which in that world I am an idiot because I don't know much about it. You know, the differences between
Of course, yeah.
tech house and all these things.
It all goes very specific. So.
Yeah. And I definitely want to get into that because without any disrespect, even though I fuck around and sometimes say dumb shit, I think there are differences and there's a reason why we have all these different names and all this. And it's a huge industry around the world. I saw a little bit of that when I dealt with my festival in Spain because it was, we decided to go quite underground to kind of cater to the Atlantic coast. To the crowds in that region. Funnily enough, when all of that was happening, I was thinking of you guys. Andy F, my brother, we met. We were neighbours in the Coogee penthouse.
Yes.
My 5 years in Coogee, a couple of those years were with the neighbours next door. Sometimes we used to have who had the biggest, longest party competition.
Always.
But yours were marathons, brother. I don't think I could ever keep up for 2-3 days.
Work on that stamina.
But honor and a pleasure to have you with us, my brother,
pleasure.
and so many things to talk about. And the cool thing is, as much as I know a lot about you, I don't know a lot about you. So
There's always the hidden part.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we're gonna pull apart a lot of those things.
Go for it.
But my brother, you're Egyptian.
Yes.
Born in Egypt.
So born in Egypt.
Uh-huh.
The whole family, we moved in 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it was a while.
Okay.
I was 18.
Yes and no.
Sort of
It's not
like
that long
growing
ago,
up.
man. 2006. In
Growing
my
up
mind.
there.
Yeah.
Moved 2006 straight into uni and sort of.
How was your English?
It was okay actually. I went to British school in Egypt, so it was kind of
Ah.
mixed. So it was like mix of sort of Egyptian English. with
Yeah,
sort of
academic
British-
English,
Yeah,
I think what
so
it is.
you-
Yeah,
you get a mix of
that's
both.
right,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
And definitely coming to Australia, a lot of the expressions would have been very different and everything. I'm sure there was a bit of a shock
different
here.
culture.
How's it going?
Yeah, hey, kind of, mate. It's definitely a different culture, but I think
No doubt.
yeah,
Cairo,
yeah, Cairo,
of course,
yes.
massive city.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking loved Egypt
Your recent
with a
visit.
passion. Last year, me and Moki and my beautiful woman, we went there. Amazing. Wow. Knocked Machu Picchu off as my favorite place in the earth that I've visited too. I've done lots of traveling, but definitely Egypt blew me away.
It's a great city to sort of visit.
Yeah.
If you're with the right people, I think
No doubt.
There's a lot to visit. There's a lot to sort of know about it.
Yeah. No, and particularly, I mean, I was there obviously for the ancient Egyptian, the monuments and the pyramids and all the obvious stuff. A little bit the Nile as well, because I've had this thing about the Nile and swimming in rivers and oceans around the world. I've got this thing with that. But I did not do, let's call it modern day Egypt too much. We drove through Cairo,
Can be a bit
obviously.
biased.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like I know you sort of you know a bit about history and you
Yes.
sort of learn a bit more about
Yes.
like different places. So from a mainstream perspective, it can be slightly biased.
In which way?
In the way they present it, I think from the
Sure.
way people present the history, what they know,
Yeah.
how they've reached to basically the conclusions that.
Sorry. So you're speaking strict about the history of Egypt and the ancient Egyptians.
Yeah.
As biased.
In a way, if you're coming from an underground sort of.
Yep.
I mean, if you like poking around, you like reading different things. When you actually go there, it can be sort of different what they actually tell you to what you sort of expect to hear.
Well, very much so with me. I mean, I was already going in being completely open-minded, but also read up on and seen lots of documentaries of the alternate history to the colonial, post-Napoleonic Egyptology, as it's known. That only came about ever since Napoleon was actually forced to stay in Egypt because the British smashed his naval fleet when he was invading Egypt. So he was forced to stay there for some time, and him and his crew and the people that he had with him, because it was a huge entourage. It wasn't just a couple of hundred soldiers. It was like a big thing. And then these people started exploring Egypt, and that's where. So we're talking from off the top of my head, it's late 1700s, I believe, early 1800s. That's when Egyptology, as we know it today, is born, and is extremely biased because we start from the point that European, Anglo, French, whatever peoples are the most advanced in the world. These sand niggers, as you often hear people say, expressions like that, could not have been more advanced than we are. Yeah. So everything is downplayed as slaves. They couldn't have technology that we don't have. They couldn't be better, greater thinkers than we are. They couldn't. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's all downplayed and dumbed down. Let's call it.
I think it's. I mean, look, I've always had questions about my history. I mean, even my country. It's all well to sort of read different books.
Yeah.
How they present it, how they've they've found how this came about.
Yeah.
The history, the language, sort of, deciphering everything, all the symbols. It's always been fascinating. Because,
it is.
I mean, look, I am no linguistic person. More expert. But I would find it utterly challenging to actually look at a bunch of, hieroglyphs or symbols. And again, you start to build this story based on your perception of those symbols, or based on your understanding. Again, like I said, an expert linguistic, would probably have a much more professional explanation. But you still do wonder. You're like, okay, so I rock up in the cave, see a bunch of symbols. Regardless if I knew, Spanish, English, it's. How do you actually interpret that? So this has always been, I guess, like a hurdle. But like I said, look, this is my personal sort of
opinion. To
explain this.
As it was made clear to me by the great Yusuf Awayan, which was my tour. He's from the ancient Kemet school of I don't want to get this wrong. The ancient Kemet school of Egyptology. That's not right, but it's something like that.
Yeah,
that sounds good. No, but they showed us a complete different story of Egypt, and these people have been there for centuries, and the information has been passed down from father to son and uncles, and down the line. And his father was the great Abdel Hakim Awiyan, who's also a world-renowned Egyptologist. Alternate. Okay. When I say Egyptologist, I'm not. Definitely not.
Okay.
And
there's a fair big divide. I mean,
huge.
You can probably see it even now. So I think recently they've discovered like 80 coffins or something.
Yeah.
Along the lines. But there's always been a clear line between if you're if you discover something in Egypt and it doesn't agree with the mainstream,
they stash
put it in a naughty corner.
Of course, definitely, The same has happened all over the world repeatedly. Smithsonian Institute in the States, they've come to. It's been reported by newspapers, things like huge giant found in Texas, It's 9 foot tall and and Smithsonian Institute were there to take it away and blah blah blah, disappeared.
And they're responsible for a lot of publishings as well.
No doubt, misinformation and stuff like that. Yeah.
You can probably end up with, slightly biased information down.
No doubt. Yeah, always controlled by mainstream narrative, no doubt about it. So Egypt is where you're from, and at what age? So you're 18 when you came to Australia.
So I was 18. I was fairly fresh out of school.
Yeah.
Parents decided that it's best sort of for us
to raise you on this side of the.
And it's sort of after school, go straight into uni. And again, it was always better as a choice. Look, for me, there's a lot of trouble back then in Egypt. Not I wouldn't say it's trouble by the meaning, strict meaning of trouble, but it was more. It's just issues with the government, how the country is running.
Of course.
Looking forward, sort of my dad saw.
Yeah. Much more
It's
stable.
best
and
for us.
Stable,
Sort of,
safe, and probably the potential for
there's more
opportunities.
opportunities as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's like,
No doubt. Yeah, well, that's so many people around the world can tell you the same thing, including my own parents when they came here. Brother, but so 18, you put out your first record.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Long time ago. Right. So you already, so by 18, you've already been making some music for a while.
So I played sort of piano when I was young. So I've always had, I guess, the melodic ear. So when I was actually young, my aunt used to, she was the one that actually discovered me. So she would, like, I had a small keyboard and she would, let's say, play something on the TV and then I would hear it. That was before I actually started getting tutoring.
Really?
So I would hear a melody and straight I would actually play it straight on the keyboard. So this was like anything, any melody. So this was the initial. And I was like,
all by ear, right? No sort of training.
This was like probably I was 9, 8 or 9.
Okay.
And I found that like I would actually listen to different melodies and I try to replicate that on the small keyboard that I had. So that from there, obviously, my mom suggested, okay, maybe you should,
take some training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really good to, obviously, all classical. At the time, sort of got on my nerves. I mean, it was nice, but
not what you wanted.
Yeah, it was like, look, this is slightly boring to me.
Yeah, of course.
I know you obviously have to go through the classical music just to get an idea.
They say that, yeah.
But yeah, look, I mean, I've done that. Eventually, sort of, I think I was age 14. And I've sort of started dabbling with the world of, digital audio workstations as we know it.
And straight into electronic music, right?
Yes.
And no hip hop in there along the way, nothing like that.
No. I mean, look, I used to probably listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
But it was
I mean
mainly
musically,
like you'd go to the music store. I mean, the cassette store. Sorry, it wasn't a music store.
Yeah.
It was just a cassette store. And back then we used to have different stuff, like techno sort of tapes, hip hop, R&B.
Yeah.
So I've sort of listened to different types of music, and basically with using a computer, I guess, or trying to produce something electronic. Yeah. So I always knew that you can hook up a keyboard to the computer through the MIDI cables and get it to basically play the notes from a software.
Yeah.
This sort of took a while. I initially discovered Reason probably around 2001. So
Reason the software, which is a DAW, so you can make beats. Yep.
And sort of back then, it took me about 6 months to try and get anything on the sequencer.
Wow.
So look, it was a sort of trial and error. But look, I've always had a knack, as in, okay, how can you get this keyboard to function? And for me to actually sequence some sort of a pattern, some sort of a song or a track. And I think that's when it started. And it was very primitive then.
Yes.
And, obviously the more I learned, the more sort of track I dissected. Normally my method was to actually listen to tracks and to try and in sort of in English write what is happening. I think this is probably common with a lot of things, whether it's reverse engineering, machinery or a painting. You would sort of try to deconstruct what is in front of you.
Yep.
And again, it's not that I deconstruct it to replicate it, but it's more like deconstruct to try and understand the process, so that when I am doing it, obviously I'll do it in my own sort of pace. Well,
there is no musician without influences.
Absolutely.
In the history of humanity, that's the way it's always been.
Yes.
Like any great musician, however how much he revolutionized his genre or his musical world, he was always, he came from someone else's influence and many people's influences. So
I think inspiration is, look, you can copy people. Look, you can look at something and sort of say, okay, I'm going to do something, or I'm going to do basically same as this, slightly different, melodies, this, that. But again, even between you and yourself, you do that, and you're like, well, I haven't really done anything.
That's right.
Really.
Yeah. But having said that, though, I know a lot of people that have begun straight out imitating. I mean, that, you know, you hear something and, oh, can I play that? And you play it, or you sing it, or you rap it, or whatever. And then from there, you kind of start developing, you know, your own kind of style, or whatever. But from a very young age, because to put out a track at 18, you know, that's quite a thing. I mean, and with a record label too, right?
Yeah, it was a New York-based record label. So the actual DJ that runs that label, I sent him the track sort of a while back. It was probably like...
What was the name of the song?
It was Identity Replication.
Oh,
so it was slightly...
Interesting.
Don't ask me at the
name,
how I came about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've actually sent him the track, and it's sort of probably 8 months later. And at the time, just, you know, obviously just leading up to this, so I had already sort of produced fully finished tracks.
Oh, you would have had to, because
so it was.
I don't expect it. I didn't expect you to be signed with the
Yeah.
very first thing that came out of your reason. You know what I mean? So obviously you've been at it for a little while, and this one was worthy to be released by a label, man.
Yeah. So back then, obviously, we were using MSN Messenger. So I used to have a lot of Argentinian producers. So that whole house scene had sort of a big influence. I knew a lot of the producers back then. I'd sort of produced, I'd say, roughly 35 to 40 tracks by then. And I had sent that track to the record label owner, and sort of 8 months later, and he sends me an email. And he's like, "Look, I've been opening all my parties in New York with this track." And I'm like, he's like, "Oh, I'd love to sign it."
Oh, nice.
And I was like, it was a bit of a gobsmack. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Really?
And I listen to the tracks now. I'm very being confident of what you've done. I think it's something really important. The level of quality, I mean, obviously I look at it now. It was good enough considering where I was.
And it was 2006.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So I'm very proud of it. Obviously, I look at it now, but
of course,
the quality of that, my expectation of things that will actually play out.
Yeah, but I think every person that's ever put something out can relate to that. I mean, myself, when I hear back to Y La Familia's debut album, For My People, Pa Mi Gente, from 2002, all right, man, sometimes I'm in a good mood or whatever, I can bop my head to it a little bit. But most of the time, there's a slightly uncomfortable feeling because, you know, I wanted things to sound differently.
Yeah.
I hear things that other people don't hear, you know, and it's almost like you also hear it with your 2020 brain and knowledge and capacity, and you go, fuck, I could have done so much better.
You've been going through,
I guess the comparison that I make to people is we hear it from the inside because you are inside the creative process, whereas everyone else hears it from the outside, so they're like, "Yeah, it's a good song," but you go, "The bass line, the fucking, you know, the mastering wasn't done properly. Kick was, the volume was too loud on the mix, you know, and so on and so on." What genre was it? Your first track? Because I want to start this genre definition
the
conversation.
Genre, so over the years, look, before I sort of got into this.
All right, if you're going to have a hard time answering this question, then I've got no fucking chance.
It's a...
We're trying to... Tell me.
Okay, so initially sort of I got sort of inspired by trance music. So back then...
Trance,
So
trance was big, right?
Trance, techno was 140 BPM, very quick. That was early 2000s. At that time, when you sort of used to say, okay, what are the different types of trance? So if you had to go to buy records, or, you know, there was the like, you know, trance as a genre wasn't broken down to, you know, like 20. Like now with house, for example, there's literally subgenres which
Okay, so what would have been the main genre, the overarching?
I would say, look, it's
trance.
House. Trance that are actually
the original one.
Originally trance.
Sure.
Borderline sort of, I guess, Carl Cox back then was probably 140 BPM techno.
Sure.
Very minimalist in arrangement of sounds. Trance was more sort of the melodic aspect, big builds up. So from there, sort of, I initially discovered that I'm actually liking the slightly slower more groovy stuff. So as obviously as BPM went down, you had time between
That's
each
right. For your
kick
bass
or
line and everything.
to
Yeah.
actually sort of reflect as the track is playing. With trance, it was very quick, so it was just more speed based than actually
More drugs.
groove based. In a way, that's what I'm saying. For
Trance,
most people,
faster, more drugs.
it's you will definitely
Slower,
be thrown
less
by
drugs.
the speed.
That's it.
And then with house, it's just that idea that you in between every kick, as you know in dance music, it's 4/4. So in between every kick, you actually get time to listen to groove. As a producer, you get time
and
to
feel
actually
it. That's right.
feel.
Yeah, syncopate.
So this was sort of just like love at first sight for me. It's just like a complete addiction, I just went straight down to house music. And house music back then, to me, was basically you had hard house, you had tribal house,
groovy,
probably funky house.
Funky house, sorry.
Which funky was in, like funky and disco was sort of similar.
Yeah.
You had
a lot
deep
more bass
house,
line and stuff, right? Yeah.
Tribal. There weren't many. Like you wouldn't say, these days there's like
a million different things.
Oh man, look,
tech house.
I don't really look. Yeah, and again, tech house is probably then minimal / techno.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very narrow. Which again, so if someone does a track, it's either tribal, deep house, progressive house.
Sure. But what have you been doing?
It's mainly progressive.
Most of your career.
I'd say it's always been progressive, but progressive was never a sound. So
okay, cool. We're gonna play a little game. Excuse me.
Sure. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna give you about 10 or 20 words. Not that you can count them as you're saying them, but I'm gonna give you 10 or 20 words to describe all these electronic music genres, so we can break it down for everyone at home.
Okay.
But first and foremost for me, because I'm the first one that's lost in progressive house.
Okay, so it's all right. So this, I've read sort of the descriptions.
20 words done.
I'll try. It'll probably take slightly more than 20 words.
Paulie, can you count the words? That's your job, brother.
Don't count, Paulie.
Yeah, for your Egyptian brother. Yeah.
With progressive, the idea was like in any other song structure, in any other music structure. So the idea is that there is a progression in the elements within the tracks.
Sure.
So this is the broad definition of progressive. Now, inside a progressive track, mainly you would get a lot of sort of reverb applied onto different elements. It could be effects. Okay. It could be just the use of effects to basically create space with a lot of the elements.
Sure.
Most tracks I'd say back then would go from 8 minutes up to 12.
Sure. One track.
Bear in mind that this, as a producer, you needed to include, for example, like a 2-minute
intro and outro.
So if you're a DJ,
Mix,
it gives you a bit of time to do it. So when you think about it, most tracks would probably
4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, roughly, I'd probably say 6.
Just,
6. Given, back then it was that people got bored less quickly.
Sure.
Let's just say.
But it's effects driven type sounds.
It's very pronounced when you hear it. There's a lot of scattering of effects around that or the soundscape of the track.
Sure.
Now, as the track goes, there is always an element. For example, if we look from a melody perspective, the melody sort of climaxes, or the melody you sort of given hints of the main part of the melody, which you would hear in the breakdown. So as the track goes, you're giving hints of the melody, not necessarily.
Okay, I get you. Yeah, and then it builds up to the full melody.
Absolutely. And
okay, I've heard a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
so where they kind of drop bits of it, and it builds up to the full thing.
So let's say every 30 seconds, I'm introducing something to the listener, but I'm not introducing the full image.
Right.
In the listener's mind, they would be basically anticipating.
I get
what's coming.
Sure.
You still have that nice sort of underlying groovy sort of foundation.
Yep. I get it.
Again, that could, at the time, progressively, you can have sort of daytime sort of, I guess, vibes or sort of sound to the music. So it can be slightly relaxed, can be deep, dark driven. I guess
so there's subgenres within progressive then.
Yeah, I mean, but we never really used to bother. So it's like, look, it's it's probably a more up tempo sort of it wasn't. It was still progressive, but again, it's progressive. You can play.
Yeah, it's up to
The idea of progressive during
Yeah.
the day. It's just nice, relaxed.
Okay,
Sure. No running bass. Most
Okay.
people would associate that with sort of dark or.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea was it's very simple. That over the let's say 8 minutes of the track,
It just builds up.
you're
You
layering
tease.
and sort of introduce something is happening. Something is
There's a
changing
progression
over that
to-
duration.
Yep. To
Either
a
to
peak.
climax, the breakdown, or
Sure.
just to keep that anticipation running.
Okay. Tribal house.
Tribal. Okay. So again, this is purely my.
That's how I explain it.
No, look again. You're probably correct. Part of this for me,
thanks,
for me,
Paulie.
tribal. I've always associated that with. Let's say for me, it was mainly sort of I was North Africa. So for us, it was always sort of African percussion, African
Bits and pieces.
drums.
Yeah, sure.
So again, it was using
Elements.
programmed drums.
Yep.
But on top of that, you had, I guess, I would say, ethnic sort of influences
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
percussion. It could be the use of vocals, but
Yeah.
it was mainly driven by percussion.
Sure.
It was very pronounced in tribal
Yeah,
house.
definitely.
You would, the bongos, you would hear it just on top.
Yeah.
Of
Easily recognise that.
Yeah,
one.
and then again, that was why people said,
Tech house.
Tech house. It's for me. I look again. This is my take on it.
Your take, of course.
Tech house is probably how best to describe it so no one gets offended.
Fuck them. Just tell her how it is.
Oh, look,
bro.
I think it's around the use of minimal. I guess like the minimal use of sound. I guess there isn't a lot of melody that I see in tech house as I've seen it, or maybe
It's a bit darker, no?
It's stemming from minimal techno / tech house.
Sure.
Yeah, it's slightly minimal as in the elements that you have.
Yeah.
But it's more rhythmically based. So
Sure.
tech house, it from a listener, there's more repetition and there's a very strong emphasis on the rhythmic part.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So this again. So if you compare, for
Yep.
example, the tribal house would still have melodies, vocals, percussion, whatever. So with tech house, it was again unusual use of sounds, as in different type of sounds, but it wasn't conformed to necessarily doing like a melodic, or it was just the idea that you needed a sort of a solid rhythmic foundation,
A bass. Yeah.
A
bass.
and then that's sort of how I see it.
And I see the whole tech house minimal thing. It's quite sort of more go off into your own space and dance kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's less sociable, maybe. I don't know if that's a word or that's even
fair,
but
I do
it's
like
very
it.
much about just like the trip more, right? It's more just get into it.
It's I definitely do enjoy listening to tech house. I've always liked and enjoyed the different. Again, as like for me, music, given that it's not too noisy, this is. I mean, for me, if music gets too noisy,
Yeah.
it just
It's annoying.
takes away that enjoyment of
Sure.
it. Look, I would listen to everything,
Yeah.
but it's I find tech house,
And that's kind of your world, right?
yeah, look, like I said, I go to parties that they mainly sort of promote that sort of genre.
Yeah. And what do you play most?
Progressive house. So there's always been progressive.
Progressive.
I felt in love sort of
The build
with-
up.
Yeah, back then
Crescendos.
it was sort of Sasha, John DeGuide,
Uh-huh.
the big names, I guess, Hernan Catania. So there was, these were the sort of guys that I sort of looked, up to, as in, okay, I actually do like what they're playing. It's intelligent. It's not really boring to me. It's always, like I said, there's always an element of movement happening. There's always a sound that you would hear sort of, scatter just as the track is going. So it's, this was always just the interesting part, that it was, I didn't really get bored of it, and it was very melodic. So for me, coming from a sort of a musical piano background,
of
it
course.
was always like, okay, this actually pleases me, as in,
Sure. So
melody
what
work.
genre would someone like Pitbull fall under in electronic world?
This
1, 2, 3, 4. Uno, dos, tres,
I
cuatro.
definitely think this is an infusion of
I know, my brother. I was only pulling your leg, mate. You don't have to go there, cuz.
normal house.
No
and
20-word answer required for that. Habibi, shukran.
yeah, look,
We're
You
just
got
trying
me
to
on
have
that
some
one.
fun, brother. No, but look, I actually appreciate that because I do get a little bit lost, and I know a lot of my people will get a little bit lost as well when we go down that rabbit hole.
Oh,
You know, like
definitely.
what's what, and then so then funky house would be more like some of the stuff you would hear on the radio. You know, with a lot of bass lines and
Yeah.
catchy hooks
That's
and
it, yeah.
stuff,
So
and more
again,
like
this is-
almost like gay friendly. You know.
in a way, it's like the funky. The idea was you had more
Fun.
like live instrument bass groups.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is what really
It's
sort of
disco-y
got it.
kinda.
Whether it's guitar, bass, it's,
Yeah.
you always had that
Mm.
nice, almost jazzy influence
Yes.
to the group.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
And again,
I hear you.
funky was definitely good. I mean, back then it was sort of Ministry of Sound.
Yeah.
All those big names back then, it was kind of, the Defected back then was very different than it. But
Yeah.
it was almost,
Yeah.
yeah, and you can distinctly tell, this brand, focuses on this, this does this.
Mm.
But now it's like a rabbit hole of subgenres of
Well,
subgenres.
but I think, my brother, with the digital revolution and the internet and the world being flat, not that the world is flat or the globe is flat, but the world being flat as far as everyone having access to, the same Spotifys and YouTubes and whatever, and the DAWs and, I think you see in every genre, it's almost like a free-for-all because, you got hip-hop. What is hip-hop today? I mean, it's just everything. What is, because before it was very clearly defined. You had like R&B, hip-hop, urban music.
And that's something, I mean, I struggle with. For me, I used to get tapes. I would only sort of, genre as basically hip-hop.
Yeah.
But then you talk to someone that's actually more involved,
That's
maybe
right.
like yourself. It's
R&B.
like, okay, so
Of course.
what's this,
East Coast,
hip-hop?
West Coast, old school, whatever,
Again,
underground.
I used to get lost.
all these
from
different.
It's
Yeah,
same
yeah.
exactly like you
That's
said. I
right.
used to get
Yeah.
lost as in why the different labels.
Yeah.
What was the difference?
That's right. Yeah. But if someone plays it to you and explains it to you,
Yeah.
it all makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
But when you just hear it and you go, well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
hip hop,
this is hip-hop
yeah,
to me.
that's right. Oh, yeah, that one's different to that one, but what is it like?
Yeah.
So I get that, but definitely nowadays you've got this sort of convergence of everything. Everything just sort of mashes together, and in one way, I think it's great. There's sort of no rules, and you got all these sort of new things coming through, and sometimes it kind of does make you want to go back to that kind of almost like safe place where everything was in its place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Resistant to
yeah.
change, which most people.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's something I think we just have to
Get
grow
with.
with. But look,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't see it as bad. Definitely see all the different subgenres that I see now, especially let's say you go into Beatport, you look into music, so you have melodic, you have it's sort of. It's really sort of subdivided everything. Again, in a way, the beauty of this is you can really pinpoint what you want to listen to.
Yes, of course.
Just the downside is just it's just you can really sort of fixate yourself as a producer. Oh, I want to do, for example, melodic house and techno track.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, like I don't see it as a big issue, but look, it's just more for people that actually want to, look for music. I think it's a great way to do it. Just for me, being an old geezer, I guess.
Don't say that, bro. I'm older than you, man. You're not allowed to say that. But listen, so because another side of you is quite academic because you've been studying your ass off and everything.
Yeah,
and that's actually something super interesting because you're working in a field or studying, learning, working in a field, which is very interesting. And if it's not interesting to everyone, it should be because it's a world that's ever encroaching on everything that is life, which of course is the internet and cybersecurity, which is where you are soon to be. How far are you from finishing?
So hopefully after this summer, I'll only have 4 units left. So pretty much, I'm pretty much done. I've, over the last 2
in the next
years,
year.
Yeah, basically
Next year.
next sort of by April.
Okay,
May, I
sure.
should be
Beautiful.
graduating, so
All right, and then you'll get a job at the CIA, but you're not allowed to tell anyone
Yes, yeah.
that's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So you're unemployed.
Look,
Interesting.
cybersecurity. If I go back as a kid, I look at it now. It's sort of everything fell in place, I guess, at the right time.
Yeah.
Would I have thought that I'd be studying this now?
Yeah.
No. Did I have interest in this probably 10, 15 years ago? Yes.
Uh-huh.
I've always been fascinated of the fact that I was a nerd when I was young, so I grew up with computers.
You're very tech savvy, man. I'll give you that much. Like, hands down, bro. You're one of those guys that, you'd get given an issue, a problem, or a situation, or an interface or something, and you work it out. I think part of this was just fiddling. Tell you a funny story. So in Egypt, my dad got us a new computer. I was young at the time. What computer was it?
Huh?
Do you remember what computer it was?
Sometimes it was a Dell computer. It was the old one. You had the CPU and on top the monitor
okay,
sits.
yeah, sure. yeah, of course, yeah. We remember those.
So basically, for me, my take on, I guess, computers was just play with it. And I think it's
no manual, just get in there.
Just play with it. Obviously, no harm done if you're in the computer. I guess in the software. Yeah. They design it so that you can't really stuff up.
Yeah.
I basically looking at the back of the computer, all the ports that are there. So the first stupid mistake. So I switch up the voltage. In Egypt, it was 220. Switch it to 110. And then I flick it on.
Fucking fried.
Of course. This is one of the funny things, but again, this I can only,
So young Andy.
This is with fiddling
Habibi,
around.
What you do, Habibi? You break the computer.
It wasn't too expensive
Habibi.
at the time.
Habibi.
But definitely fiddling with computers. I've learned so much just by poking around, especially with computers. I think people are afraid to click something that would do some unexpected destruction.
I'm gonna get in there and have a go, but 99 out of 100
the patience
times.
Or I guess the persistence.
Yeah. But I think. Look, I consider myself capable enough to have a go, and sometimes I work it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I work it out.
It's just
But I'm very much a fan of plug in and play. Like just everything be. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, getting into cybersecurity, you're on another level of. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's go back to the story of me 15 sort of years ago. You would hear back then stories about all those breaches, or again back then there was a hacker breaks into this. There's a lot of big stories back then. Obviously when I started having access to the internet and stuff, there was so much more about the hierarchy of people or different. Types of people. There was definitely, groups of people, for example, in the, I guess, release scene. So most people are not aware of this, but most, before, music, games, DVDs, how it used to work was, there was different groups. They would mainly sort of do this as competition. So you'd have different groups releasing movies. If they have access to a DVD store, they would actually get the movies, rip them, put them, file them, package them, put everything. And this is actually how people got anything on the internet. So most people think torrents is basically how you get it. But before torrents, you had different groups and they all had pride in what they're doing. It was definitely for competition. So
there's still a bit of that going on, right?
Absolutely. Look, there's still different groups sort of
competing.
Releasing stuff. Again, some groups might have access to applications. So what really sort of got me thinking was a lot of those groups, they would get applications, they would crack the protection of them, and then they would basically package it up with the crack and share it between different groups. Obviously for me as an end users, playing around, you eventually get to the source of actually obtaining different, trying different applications.
Sure.
Like I said,
Correct.
I believe in trying an application fully, and look, if you use it, It's like everything that just buy it. But it was just nice. It was obviously adventurous. I was still young, so it was just like, it was like, wow, they can actually crack the protection of a big application. And again, these people, like, some of them probably not necessarily the smartest, but the fact that you actually have people that are able to crack protection done by a big corporation,
That's right.
a big corporation
Spent
that
big
has
money,
engineers.
yeah.
So this was the thing. It's like, well, obviously there's some really skilled people. There's some really smart people.
What's going on
Someone
here?
hacks into the Pentagon or NASA or this or this. And like, wow, how does he? And again, this is by no means easy. It could be, how they got in. I guess a lack of proper protective measures, as in not the correct settings. So it could be, the way they sort of got in was not because of how smart they are, but because of actually
They
a lack of
up.
proper implementation of the security.
They're fucked
But
up.
on the other side, you have extremely intelligent people that will penetrate.
Yeah.
Go through a firewall. This, that, and then. This was always fascinating to me.
I've heard crazy stories about hackers. I've met some people overseas, and they've shown me and told me some crazy shit, which gave me an insight into how real and how big and how developed that world is. So much so that a friend of mine who won't call himself a hacker, but has been perhaps benefiting
poking around.
He's like a something. So he showed me the deep web.
The dark web.
Dark web, sorry. And he gave me a little tour and he explained a few things to me. But he showed me that essentially there are people in this world almost like living a life or the life entirely for free, just from their hacks and whatever.
Look at the dark web. I've only sort of gotten to know the dark web, I guess, probably recently, last 7 years. It was sort of through Bitcoin. When you started hearing about Bitcoin, all this stuff, this, that. Then some article, and then I heard about it. I think this facilitated a place for a lot of the hackers. For example, if you wanted to buy, for example, an application that can help you hack into someone's Facebook, I'm not really aware if that exists, but this is obviously things that you can sort of buy information, you can buy applications to do specific things. You can buy viruses. Someone can.
That's right.
It's almost like it opened that marketplace if someone was sort of an amateur hacker, or I guess someone that sort of just started, well, they can certainly go, in this vast sort of dark web and, buy this application that will allow him input, click, tick, and so that did sort of obviously facilitate from a lot of small time, not really technical people to
and a whole bunch of other nasty shit on there as well. Not necessarily related to hacking and things, but actually buying drugs and weapons and bombs and plans for things and all that kind of shit. And then there's a whole that bloody childhood porn, shit and all that.
Keep in mind, to access the dark web, you used to go through Tor, and and again, this is where you see a lot of the people's, I guess, malicious or bad intentional use of technology. Tor was designed to basically protect against journalists. If you're a journalist, this was the idea of
the origin of
Tor was just this was it. Obviously, people thought, okay, well, it's protecting me in a way. Why not, make like an eBay? Basically,
that's
the
right.
web, all this everything. It boggles you. I hear different things, but the amount of stuff on there, you're like, wow, people have a capacity.
I'll tell you a story as I was told. So a friend of mine said to me that in Colombia, I go there a fair bit. He said to me that essentially so much money goes missing, digital money, that if banks and governments and societies would admit to how much of it goes missing, there would be such a loss of faith in the system that people would have nothing to do with it. So there's a system in place where all of this money just magically reappears as through some sort of like an insurance system that these guys, banks and private entities pay up to. And as he was explaining that to me, I told him of like the smallest example, but one that had happened to me, which is I was subscribed to Being Sports, which is one of these, things where you can watch sport.
Yeah.
And on the same day, for 3 months in a row, on the same day that Being Sports took out the money from my account, which was nothing, 10, 15 bucks, whatever it was.
Like a monthly.
Yeah, that's right. A few hours later, the same amount would be deducted by BE.IN Sports. Right? And that would come up on my bank statement.
Yeah.
Right? And it happened once, and I thought, okay, this is strange. Rafa's busy, forgot about it.
Yeah.
Saw it again. Hey, I'm going to contact the bank. Rafa's busy, forgot about it. Happened the third time. I was like, what the fuck?
This was happening after the initial
main... Yeah. So let's call it the real one was there. And then this other one was coming up, which was BE.IN. Right? And I noticed it was different. I go, these, right?
Yeah.
By the time I got around to contacting the bank, all those transactions had disappeared and the money was returned. Right? Not a word was said. And I don't care because it was done. Now, as part of this same conversation, and again, as it was told to me, Bancolombia, which is I think it's the biggest bank in Colombia, reported one day that there was a glitch in their system. No one should be concerned. Everything's fine. We'll go back to business the next day. What had actually happened is this group of hackers, which this guy was linked into, had ripped off $500 million from Bancolombia. Got away with it. They were celebrating, they were partying, they were doing them, going fucking nuts, whatever. As far as I know, because I didn't follow the story through, nothing ever hit the news. That glitch was the only thing that hit the news, that admission that there was some sort of a glitch.
Without obviously...
without saying... Yeah. Because, can you imagine if a bank was to say openly, hey, we got ripped for 500 million US?
Reputation,
exactly.
Definitely with customers.
Probably, the whole system, because 500 million US is 500 million US. So that's a story that I was told.
Yeah.
And then I remember the actual news report of the glitch was shown to me. That's about it. And then I know of artists that toured, did certain segments of the world like Europe, America, this and that, entirely on through a hacker. And he got them everything. And I'm talking a big artist here. I'm not talking someone small. Did the whole tour, cars, hotels, flights, everything.
So, look, it's... If you start obviously with on the dark web, this probably goes ages before the dark web. So again, like I used to like poking around, learning more, of discovering more sort of when I started having access to the internet. But even back then, the idea of carding, the word carding is basically when people they steal credit card information.
Yes.
So that could be either from a FPOS machine, like
skimming.
Yeah, basically an FPOS machine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this was popular even then, sort of, in 2000, probably late 1990s.
Yeah.
So it's the idea that obviously this was still being done. People would skim it either off an ATM, off a machine.
Yeah.
You can get a vulnerable FPOS machine. The hacker would basically break into, for example, a supermarket chain, bypass firewall, goes into this, and he's just literally sitting on the FPOS machine, every card being swiped, and you get a copy. Even back then, this was just, traded on forums. Obviously, you needed to know the website because there's no dark web, so it's special, could be invite-only websites. But the idea is that back then, you'd be, easily obtained sort of, again, MasterCard, whatever it is, any type of...
I was shown shops.
Literally, it was
digital
it's
shops.
called a CC shop or CC forum, as in basic credit
Yeah, I
card.
was shown shops in
Now it
the dark
developed.
web where you could literally go in and purchase for a couple of bucks. You could put the country that you wanted the credit card to be from, the levels, like platinum, gold, this, that, whatever, and also things like almost like a verification that the card has been verified.
Yeah.
Like it's active. You get what I'm saying? And I was like, oh fuck, like
Yeah, look, it's
wow.
It's an extremely vast world of obviously
It's a
now
fucking jungle, man.
People's appetite is just out the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, it still sort of amazes me how much
is going on.
people get off on shit that you're like,
Yeah.
how? Like, how do
Well,
you
I mean,
actually-
I think whenever there's a system, and and there's a set of laws and regulations, and there's a way of earning,
going around.
going around by breaking those laws, then criminals are going to
And look,
exist.
that I guess I see it from, like I said, an adventurous perspective. Like I said, like with the release groups, it was not. Look, these were never concerned with the money. So if a group had access to DVDs before anyone would see a new movie hit the internet, it was the group that would actually have early access from whatever they could
That's
get a
right.
screen, a DVD.
Yeah.
They would package this and they would upload it on an FTP. So they would upload this as a release with everything, all the
Sure.
notes, details. And this was as a basically competition pride between groups, different groups. Like, okay, guys, we got this.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to basically release this movie. Then from there, you get, someone would get this, that put it on torrents, and then you sort of second tier down, and everyone else would get it. But again, the idea was, it's almost like adventurous, for competition. But obviously, on the dark web now, people are doing stuff that's, I wouldn't really consider it sort of that adventurous or
No.
safe in a way. Look, some of
it's
the
mafia
stuff is
shit, bro. It's
borderline
making money, man.
Yeah,
and then you got all the freaky shit and criminals and everything. And then how much do you buy into this whole narrative they keep going on about all the time about China did this, Russia did that, the Americans did this,
in terms of
because you hear, I mean, when you think of cybersecurity, and you were to sort of scan the news headlines for the past 5 or 10 years, one thing that keeps popping up is China and Russia.
Yep, state sponsored.
Yeah, state sponsored.
We
see a lot of that.
For a lot of people, cybersecurity was probably it was always a big sector of, I guess, of importance. I mean, you go back to the old days, Israel was probably, I mean, if I look sort of 10 years ago, Israel was probably at the forefront, I guess, or Israel and the United States. They were fully aware of, the extent of how important this is to protect, the infrastructure of a country. You had a whole country connected power grid, water supply, government, records, all that. A famous thing would probably be, again, this is off what I read, but the Stuxnet was a famous case basically where people say it was the United States and Israel that worked on I guess a virus or a worm to actually break into one of the Iranian nuclear facilities, and it was a complex thing. But again, this was an example of a big complex sort of project to work on. This is where obviously state-sponsored actors come from. So you need a lot of resources. It is so complex. It's not easy for a group of hackers or a group of to actually be able to
backyard. Let's call them.
To do some of the things.
Tell me about that case, man. Tell us about that case.
It's the Stuxnet.
What's it called?
It's Stuxnet. So this was the Stuxnet.
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 Yes, Stuxnet.
Okay, cool.
So this was, I think, a virus that America...
You think the Americans will come up with a better name than that?
That's I guess the nickname for it.
Fair enough.
I could be missing on some details, but the idea was that basically they created a virus that they've spread all over the world.
Like COVID-19.
Yep. So basically,
Yep.
you basically
Yeah.
unleash it.
Yeah.
But the smart thing, and this was off a documentary. I think it's called 0 Days. And they really showed. Basically, the idea was, if you have a nuclear facility, you basically you box this in terms of outside connections. So the facility, for security wise,
Sure.
it cannot have just normal. Oh yeah, this is connected to the internet. To
That's right. Yeah.
So it's physically, obviously, boxing the facility. So
Yeah.
if someone was to try and attack this, you will not get through. If it's just there's actually no live online sort of working
Physical.
internet to go through it.
Sure.
So what they've done was they've actually created this virus, spread it all over the world. They've identified some of the contractors that were responsible for either maintenance
Servicing.
of the facility,
Yeah.
or they basically had access, physical access. They would actually need to go into the facility. The virus was extremely specific because it was a specific part in the centrifuge.
Sure.
It wasn't just any centrifuge. So the idea was they developed this solely only to be activated when it's basically within this centrifuge
Wow.
number. Or so
Yeah.
they've done this. By the time they've obviously spread the virus everywhere, when the virus was in Iran, sort of they could pinpoint, okay, this is where it is now. We can probably, or we think this is actually one of the contractors that would do maintenance on the facility.
So the contractor physically carried it in.
And again, the contract was not aware of anything, as they could probably be doing software updates. So he would put his USB, CD, whatever it is that they're
Bang.
using. He would be infected. It would literally just latch onto his USB, whatever. He would take it, go into facility, do a normal maintenance, plug it in. It would again go there and only activate again, like I said, with that specific, type of, part, or I guess, I think it was a motor, but the idea was simply that you would increase the RPM of that centrifuge only by a little bit, that it would literally break down.
Uh-huh.
But the fact
So it was sabotage.
yeah, and again, this just shows you that there's so much involved. Again, this is a very specific virus that was written, but this is state-sponsored,
Sure.
actors. These are people. It's
right.
almost like a big project. It's like
Sure.
when you're building a big building. And again, you need a lot of resources, a lot of technically smart people.
But I would dare say that whatever's going on at a government or a public level
There's nothing
does
to do
not
with that.
compare to what's going on at a private level, because the amount of spying, financial, economic spying, and between private corporations and companies, and then obviously the cybersecurity that's required to counter that must be astronomical.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they teach us. So again, for me, it's if you're protecting something, if you don't know how the attacker would approach you, it's very hard to gauge. I mean, you can sort of just stand by and alert, but where to look, it could be from anywhere. So I think it's very important to be able to, they call it ethical hacking, which, the idea that, look, you still need to be able to learn how to, for example, break wireless, protection. How do you break, for example, a zip protected file? How do you sort of try and brute force, trying all different sort of combinations to break into like Windows password. So you need, again, this is very basic, but you need to be able to sort of break in to be able to protect.
Is it true that a lot of the hackers actually get jobs in the cyber world, in the cybersecurity world? Because that's a good example, right? Because again, you need to know where the hack is going to come from and how the hacker thinks and operates. What better way to have a hacker on side?
Absolutely. Look, some of them, if you've reached that level and you're well confident of what you can do, you can definitely use it for a good cause. I think they call it white hat hackers, if I'm right.
White hat.
Um,
You know what it reminds me of, brother? Sorry. Remember Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can?
yes.
In the end, he ends up working for the dogs. He ends up working for the coppers, whichever ones they were. Obviously, we're talking decades ago, but it's the equivalent, right? It's these, shifty fuckers.
You can definitely. There's a really famous hacker called Kevin Mitnick. He was probably one of the world's most famous.
Sure.
Back then, they were so scared at him when they put him in prison that he wasn't even allowed to use a phone because they thought he can use the phone to somehow hack into the telecommunication network.
Wow.
So again, he was notorious for things that he's done at the time. So he used to, for example, he used to bypass the time limits on payphones. So he would actually figure out how to, from a normal public sort of payphone, and it would literally, you would just basically trick it every time, and you just use it however long you want. So he would.
What era we're talking?
Oh, this is probably late 80s, 90s. Like he was like the
OG.
I would say a hacker, as in
a
it
real
was very
hacker.
mechanical engineering sort of base.
It's probably bridging between mechanics and digital, right?
There was internet, there was dial-up internet. So just for him, I guess he's a good case of someone. But again, he got in jail, spent a bit of time. Then when he got out, he created his own sort of consultancy firm.
Of course.
So it's, look, if you have the skill, why not actually use it for a good cause? Again,
well,
anyone can cause malicious damage.
For a good cause or for a solid revenue stream without having to look over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Now, there's also forever been rumors about Gates creating the virus and then selling you the antiviral software for it, and then creating another virus, and then you need the update of the software and so on and so on, all the way up to, of course, COVID-19, where they made COVID-19 and they want to sell you the vaccine. So he went to school with computers and graduated to fucking big pharma.
I mean, I'm not sure about Gates personally, but from a business perspective, this would be the utopian sort of dream that you would be providing the solution and the problem.
That's right.
Again, it's so hard to actually directly confirm that this. But again,
I get that. I get that. What do we know? What do we know? We're just a couple of boys talking shit.
He could, but I mean, I really see it as Bill Gates was probably, a very smart person. Don't get me wrong. People say all type of crap now, but again, it's very smart person.
No, I don't think anyone's putting into dispute his intelligence. I mean, he's definitely.
It's just that people, when someone gets
genius.
that big,
that's right.
You always have someone talking, regardless whether it's negative
right.
or. But the fact, look, it is possible. But again, Microsoft was never really concerned with viruses. They were behind sometimes. They were being, blamed for not patching Windows in critical vulnerabilities, which would really affect. So a vulnerability is basically a weakness in code, something that would allow the attacker to actually use this specific vulnerability to gain privileges onto the system. So, when you act like you have an administrator, so like that would be the person that has full access to the computer. This vulnerability would allow someone from the outside to actually trigger the computer to for example, buffer overflow, for them to actually gain administrator access. And once they have that, they they can basically launch connection between them and the computer.
Yeah, and that's why we use Apple.
Look, it's equally doable. Look, I know that they're more. It's the underlying system, which is Unix, Linux.
That's right.
Of Apple, it's much more security.
It's safer.
Yeah,
it's not safe, but it's safer.
Yeah, it's built for security in a way. In mine, Windows was always just to allow the consumer to,
That's right. Yep.
use this mask.
That's right.
equal
That's
them.
right. Yeah. The whatever.
Customability. Yeah.
Customability. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that a
yeah,
word?
that's
Paul, is that a word? You're good with big words, brother. Customizability? No. Customability.
We're the producers of this show, so yeah.
There you go. On this show, it counts.
Yes.
We'll make up new words. Doesn't matter, my brother. The customability.
Yeah.
I reckon it's customizability.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Anyway,
I missed it. Well,
that one.
I've coined a
That's
new
what you
term,
can
Paulie.
do with. That's what you can do with PC.
Andy,
Done.
Did you
Sorted.
Did you see this recent? So let me just bring it up.
What's this about hackers? Oh, Russian
No.
bashing. Here we go. It's something for you to talk with your geeky friends when you go back to school.
Oh, look, it's I am fully aware of Russia's capabilities in the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us
Is
secrets,
it
Andy.
state sponsored? Is it it's just individual or really sort of formed groups?
I've been told
It's
that it may be happening on Russian soil. It may be allowed to happen, as in people who wish to benefit from doing all these hacks and whatever, particularly to the West. If you're in Russia, the chances of you getting arrested, busted, whatever, investigated are a lot less because you're in Russia. So there's almost like a safe haven protected / we'll turn a blind eye thing going on, but obviously the West loves to say that it's state sponsored because always Russia and China and these other axis, whatever it is always there has to be a boogeyman. There has to be.
It's politically, obviously, it's something
always.
toy politically because everyone knows.
You need an enemy. You need a boogeyman.
Yeah, so you'd always say, look, it was Russian or Chinese this or
That's
Russian that. But look, it's
happening.
This could be happening again. What the political motive for this? I mean, I'm not sure why would they fiddle with the Olympics.
They love.
Oh, you know what the rumor is? It's
the rumor. So there's a rumor.
No, it's I listen
Wow,
to ABC News
Rumours.
sometimes.
Good on you.
Whatever that's good for.
Tell us.
But they're saying it's retaliation for how they got kicked out.
They got
because of the
banned.
dope.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's more
Makes
of
me
a
laugh
jealousy
the whole
political
doping
issue.
thing. I always go back to a story that I was told. Another jail story. Another one. A good friend of mine at the time, I've not seen him that much since. Adam Watt, who was top 10 kickboxer, world champion in both for several years. And we were talking one day about steroids and steroid use and performance enhancers and everything else. And he was quick to say that everyone is on it in the professional sporting world. Everyone is on it. And he was adamant.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, cool. So what were you on? And he goes, no, not me. I wasn't on anything.
Yeah, can I raise your eyebrows? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show, it's funny to me to hear, like, for example, to get into this, America versus Russia thing, to hear the Americans point the finger at Russia for all these things when it's widely known that, the Americans are probably the most fucking, juice heavy, country in the world. And if you want examples, all you need to do is, do a quick Google search. I mean, even like Lance Armstrong, the poster child of, the white American cyclist, he was the cancer survival, whatever. There's an amazing documentary on him, by the way. You should look it up.
Oh, definitely.
And he was, he was a fucking juice hit, like doing runs in the middle of the night to get EPO from their dealer at some fucking car park, in the middle of, Tour de France and the system they had. And then, of course, you look at the much more into it, the baseball players, I think Barry Bonds was his name. All these runners that have been busted, and everyone talks about Canadian Michael Johnson, I think his name was, famously won that year and got the gold medal taken off him. I think it was the 100 or 200 meters. But what most people don't know is that a lot of the runners on that race ended up testing positive as well. But so, I mean, the Russians cop it, but there is so much of that going on in the professional sporting world.
I think it's also important where the spotlight is put.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, like now, probably here more, the spotlight sort of aimed, I guess, countries that the United States is not really happy with.
No, 100%.
In a way.
Of course.
Now, that doesn't mean that it's in Russia's best interest to actually cause disinformation. Now, disinformation is nothing new for most people.
Sure.
This was sort of, I guess, mastered by, back then CIA. There's a lot of, good stories about the idea that, okay, how can we, you go into a town or village, how can you actually start, selling your propaganda? How can you actually spread some information so that in the end, when you do a sort of a street check, they've gotten the whatever we were trying to convince them with. So I think this information. Now with the political arena sort of so big,
it's huge.
Look, this information is just a genius way, to steer away people to wherever you want.
Sure.
America's sort of blaming everything on Russia. But again, this could be coming internally from the States.
There is a lot of that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence on that already. Actually, the people doing the blaming. Maybe themselves.
Look, again, like I said, America's renowned
it's a fucking
for
madhouse, man. Especially now.
Causing the problem, and they would sell you the solution.
Yeah, Hegelian dialectic, 100%. Problem, reaction, solution, 100%. Yeah.
So look, I am getting this, but it's you're hearing too much of the blaming. I'm like, okay, so you have the NSA, you have the CIA, you have all these big agencies. Can you really pinpoint this, or you just...
No.
It's like I always wonder. It's like,
I think it's much deeper than that, and it's so much more complex. In that, media and everything, they love simplifying things because that's the easiest way to sell it to a dumbed down population. It's got to be simple. There's got to be a bad guy and a good guy. The sheriff and the Indian, the cop and the robber kind of thing.
Even things in the medical sort of the medical, I guess, scene or industry.
Don't go there, brother.
Personally, what irritates me is, it's not irritates me, but it's almost like I'm in disbelief as in, okay, for example, something like cancer. This is something that's
huge,
caused a lot of harm to people, grief. Now,
the amount
we
of
have
money.
this technology. We have reached this
level.
Can someone please explain why have we not focused resources to actually...
I'll tell you why.
Fixing.
I'll tell you why. Because around the world, there are billions and billions of dollars going into charities, and going into cancer research. Now, the first thing I would say, everyone's quick to give money to these organizations, and God bless everyone that does it with the right intention, because I would dare say that a huge chunk of the population does it with the best of intentions, hand on heart. We want to help people, we want to do the right thing. But doesn't anyone stop and say, where the fuck does the money go and what's being done with it? You'd think at some point would say, where's the results? Where's this money going to? Give me some accountability. How much are the scientists with the coats on in the lab doing this getting paid? And how much is the CEO getting paid? And this kind and that kind of all this shit. You get what I'm saying? And then the other side of it as well, in the whole follow the money thing, which I very much employ with all of these scenarios and things whenever you're looking for answers for bigger picture stuff, is how much money are the actual suffering patients paying to the big pharmaceutical companies. You know, a lot of it is government funded, but governments they're really especially when it comes to funds, we say government funded. There's no such thing. It's not taxpayer funded either. It's people funded. It's our money that instead of going to, you know, whatever, schools, roads, whatever you want to call it, it's going to keeping this huge machine oiled with billions and billions and billions of dollars around the world. Now, if you're anywhere within a pharmaceutical company, whether you be in the middle or at the top or whatever, this is your bread and butter.
Yeah.
That the cure would be the worst thing for your business. And as a matter of fact, I would extrapolate that beyond cancer to almost every other disease there is out there. They never want to sell you the cure. Never. That would be bad for business. That would be going against their DNA. That would be, you know, that's not what they're there for. They're there to make money. You can't tell me that the CEO of Bayer, you know, is truly concerned about the health of the population. You understand what I'm saying? They're strictly there to make as much money as possible and to, you know, for their shareholders and all this bullshit, which is another load of crap too. But you get what I'm saying? To return money on investment and to make as much money as they can. And if people want to say, oh, well, you know, how dare you say that, you know, because there's good people and bad people. Sure, you're a good person until you make $100 million. Then you'll do whatever you can to make 500. And then to 1 billion, and then to 10, because power corrupts all.
For sure.
Which is another thing as well. And ultimately, another thing that people need to understand is that the world, at every level, private and public, is run by psychopaths. There's psychopaths with their hands on their levers pretty much all over the world. Big pharma, absolutely no doubt about it. It's one of the power bases of the world. So you've got pharma, oil and mining, military, of course, and financial. They're your big four. You know?
Oh, look, I'm aware of the military-industrial complex being so vast. But
sure.
Yeah, like I said, you go into a country, blow it up. If you're from the country attacking, if you're from that country attacking, then obviously you're aware of different, contractors or.
Of course.
You know,
of course.
So
we break it, we build it.
You know what I mean? It's like, I am aware that this is how they do it because it works in their best interest, you know.
No doubt.
Attack one country, okay, this military, defense contractor is going to benefit, whatever, he's going to get a big...
big contract, big paycheck,
So I've always thought that about Big Pharma. Look, for me, it's, I'm very... anti-pharmaceuticals.
Sure. As we all should be.
Look, I believe you were born with a functional body that can learn to protect itself given the time. Something that really annoys me now, it's like people are so claustrophobic of using sanitizers. You're actually losing a lot of good bacteria that's right. You know, obviously on your skin or this. But again, now it's almost that people are becoming anxious of other people.
Sure.
This is something crazy that, you know, with COVID, that you're like, well, people will come at different the other end. But no doubt, pharmaceuticals definitely, like you said, it doesn't make sense if you sell the cure. Well, I'm gonna stop buying your pills. So it's.
Particularly what I say about COVID-19, again, with follow the money. And I think there's ample evidence to show that these viruses are man-made. And this doesn't begin with COVID. This goes back to the other SARS and the other coronaviruses that are out there. There's a lot of information to show that it's impossible for these viruses to jump the way that they have jumped from, say, one species to another. You know, the only people that have the resources to potentially create the virus are the only people that stand to gain the most from the propagation of the virus. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, I mean, But
And then everyone else lined up behind them because there's so many people lined up behind them as well, which are more than happy for the virus to go. And all you need to do is look at all these major corporations around the world that have skyrocketed since COVID, Amazon being one of them. You know, they don't mind having a part to play in all of this, you know, turning a blind eye or making sure the media, you know, kicking in, making sure the media doesn't say anything. Like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have kicked in, I think it was $150 million to the media all over the world, donations. So let me get this straight. A charity which is supposed to be protecting the world and bringing, bringing medicines and life-saving medicines to all over the world. So they get donors from all over the world, Bill and Melinda Gates, and they got their videos and thank you and all this bullshit. And they whitewash themselves as well, saying all my money was put into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Philanthropy. Yeah, right. These guys, they've earned all this money to go into charity. But they've pulled 150 million US out, and it's gone to the biggest media corporations in the world. How does that work? Why? And how does that make sense? You're supposed to be inoculating poor people in India and Africa with all this hard-earned money again.
The in need sort of areas.
In need. But you've pulled 150 million US out of there, which is no, you know, so there's no chump change.
Yeah,
and you've donated it to the BBC, to, you know, ABC and all these media networks from all over the world. Why?
Look, it does not make any sense from a donation perspective. Could be underlying issues with the you know, specific corporation you're obviously concerned with. But I've always seen, you know, look, donating is very shady. It's always been very shady for
it's
me
money laundering.
Because now, can you hide the money sort of tracks? Yes, you can. You know, if you have a company that takes donation from people.
Yeah, of course.
Look, any accountant would tell you, look, this is very doable.
There's always ways around
like
things.
It's for me. It's in Egypt again. You know, my parents would sort of, when you say donating, you'd actually go, maybe you're in direct contact with the person you're trying to help.
Sure.
Maybe second in line direct contact. So you have one person between you.
I hear you.
So that you are fully aware that, okay, look, if I give this person $100, I want to make sure that he would actually go buy blankets for
at least $80 is going to the person in need.
I don't mind that he takes a bit of whatever to cover himself.
Of course.
If
the guy's going to dedicate his life, he needs to be earning a living and everything, but not a six-figure fucking salary.
You're getting corporations or sort of donation receiving corporations that are actually advertising. They are spending a lot of money.
That's right.
And you are sending money, or you are willingly signing a piece of paper that they sell you on the street to your house. What you have no idea what will happen to this money.
That's right.
And don't give me this simple, blind reason. No, it's for a good cause. Yeah, I know the intention is good. I know that it's for a good cause.
Again, the person donating
exactly
has the best intentions.
You know, between you and your, you know, your God, your creator, whatever it is, yes, you've done a good deed.
Sure. But wouldn't you like to know?
It's like, where is it going? You have no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that obviously irritate me with. You
know. So back to you in cybersecurity. So what kind of a career do you see for yourself? Like, where can a cybersecurity expert end up?
Look, I've recently just finished actually doing a unit on digital forensics, and I found this extremely fascinating.
Okay.
So digital forensics is obviously everything to do with, you know, considering us. We have a phone now that we use every day. You have a computer. In simple senses, a normal forensic team would go into like a crime scene, and they would basically leave fingerprints, you know, anything that they can find to use as evidence. Anything that's relevant. So this was the job of a normal forensic scene. Now with the digital forensics, it's more, how can you digitally lift fingerprint evidence? How can you find evidence that would correlate, for example, someone
with
to
an
this
occurrence,
to this like to do a specific act or like a
Sure.
specific
Yeah, yeah,
accident
yeah.
or a specific fraud.
Yeah.
How can you actually confirm with a fair degree of certainty this is the person that basically wired
So,
this amount
so
of
does that
money?
mean working with law enforcement
so
agencies?
definitely, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this could be, again, let's say you raid someone's place.
Yeah.
It's you go, there's computers, there's
Sure.
there's CDs,
Bring them
there's
to
USBs.
me. That's Andy.
Yeah,
Bring me his
they're like-
phone.
Caught this up.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating because again,
Yeah.
you people have different levels of understanding, different
Sure.
level of usage to their their computers. But the thing that we're oversupplying is just we're leaving traces everywhere.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah. Digital fingerprints is huge, right?
So
Yeah.
look, I mean, for a lot of people, this is something that actually I learned, but it's the idea that when you delete something off a hard disk, most people, if you initially goes to the recycle bin on
That's
Mac
right.
or Windows,
Yeah,
then you would empty the recycle bin.
sure. And
To
it's
the
gone.
normal end user, this is gone.
Mm,
For example, if you have a hard disk that has 50 gigabyte capacity,
sure.
I've deleted 10 gigabytes,
Yeah.
which had whatever, it's like
I
a
should have 40
collection of
left.
music.
Yeah.
So you have 40. Now, if you do not write something
On
that
top.
would overwrite this 10 gigabyte that you deleted,
Sure.
this 10 gigabyte is on the hard disk and I can retrieve it at any time.
Sure.
So this again makes me, wonder, like I was actually had a few hard disks at home, that they're the old ones that I used to sell, and I was like, shit, maybe I should just clear them. Just not of anything, but the idea that, look, even if you had documents to do with financial, with your
Sure.
business, with this, you're
Whatever.
like, well,
Privacy, man. It's your shit. No one else's.
yeah, so this was the initial thing, obviously, with poking around, with hard disks. But then
Yeah.
there's social media, which is still a very new thing in
of
terms
course.
of forensically analyzing it. So not many companies can actually
Access it.
yeah. So again, it's
Yeah.
it's very hard to get sort of
It's a privacy thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
bypassing privacy, different laws, different geographical locations with
Sure.
where
Of
the
course.
information
yeah,
is.
that's right. Comes from, yeah.
But from what you're saying, I think cybersecurity, look, for me, initially it's a cybersecurity analyst role, which you'll be concerned with more the broader sort of, I guess, policy check in a normal, in a corporation. You'd be concerned with how they implement security. You would monitor network activities as what's
Sure.
happening.
That's right.
In a bank, for example, who's accessing from where? Is there any suspicious? For example, you come home every day at 5, you have dinner, you go to gym at 6, by 8 you're in bed. All of a sudden at 10 p.m. there's the living room, there's activity, motion activity.
Sure.
So you would think, well, obviously something is happening. It's the same
Yeah.
thing for a bank. So this one of the
okay.
things is you would actually analyze
Irregular
on a
activity
day
kind
to
of
day.
thing. Sure.
Yeah, people sort of check for
Yeah.
this, and you have those outliers, which is just the very strange things when they happen. Obviously, like when they happen, you would
It's
need
like a
to
red
sort of-
flag.
yeah. Again, 'cause this is again a cybersecurity sort of a status.
That's
sort of
how it
role.
works. So, how do you feel when you see, when you see the movies and there's like the cyber hacks and all that, and they go, "Oh, someone's in our network. He's getting to the hurry up," and it's like, how do you
Look,
does that relate?
they've
Or
always
Hollywood?
look, you need a bit of drama with movie making.
It's not very sexy.
Yeah, look, you gotta look at. I mean, again, this is part of what I actually initially was fascinated with. But I always knew that it was not just a simple, you have the screen, it goes tick 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 tick. No, it does not happen like this at all.
Have you ever hacked anything?
Absolute garbage. Yes, by means of learning, yes, sure.
Sure. So you're a hacker.
Yeah, look, I'd say.
Let it be
ethical-
known, Paulie. He's admitted to it. Take note of the time, please, because we need a
look,
digital
it's-
footprint.
Look, like I said, if you're gonna protect,
I'm actually scared now, Rafa.
Yeah, I know.
He set up the podcast here.
Yeah, that's
No,
right.
look,
Andy gave us a hand setting up
it's
some of
very
the things in
complex
here.
to
So.
hack, or some people are so silly. They're like,
Yeah.
someone would ask, look, can you hack this Facebook? I was like, no, it's actually so much involved. But again, why would they do it in the first place? This is again part of the ethical part
Of course. Yeah, it comes down
doing
to
this.
it. Yeah,
It's
very much, man.
you feel used if you're simply doing something that utilizes your expertise, your skill,
Sure.
but for the sake of satisfying someone's just personal whatever, you know, dreams or fantasies. He just wants. So for me, look, it's knowing how to hack. I think it's very important because you can get an idea
Of course.
your attacker.
Of course, you have to know.
Like
You
I've
have to know,
been studying a bit of psychology with my degree as sort of elective. So it was like, all right, what electives can I study? And I've just been fascinated with the world of psychology, just how we do, you know, how we do certain behaviors.
That's right. Why?
How we behave, why we do certain things. I've actually done a unit on forensic psychology, which is, again, it's you know, it deals with, you know, part of the law and forensics, but it also shows you how can you rehabilitate people back into the normal world. How do you know, it's so complex, but it's like if you're in a position as a counselor, it's like, okay, how do you explain to someone that's done this, rape, but that how do you actually get this person to think that, okay, what you've did is not acceptable, it's not right.
Yeah.
But this is actually how you should start to think. And this is, again, it could be someone that's you know, molested children. It could be someone that's done a lot of bad things. But it's the idea that, okay, it's very hard. It requires a lot of skill.
Well, if psychology is something that you are getting yourself a little bit more involved, I know a few people that you could give a helping hand to, and a couple of them are in the living room waiting for us after the podcast.
Oh, mate,
jokes.
No, of course.
But not really.
Nah, look, we all need psychological help. Trust me, we all.
Nah, I think so, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look, it's that sort of constant fight with your personal behaviors, you identifying yourself, finding yourself. Look, this I think it's just once you know why personal, you know how behaviors are shaped.
Fuck, the coppers are coming, bro. Can you hear the sirens?
you don't hear that in Juro, man. Like
I told you not to talk that shit, Andy. They're coming for us now. The choppers are here. Fucking hell. No, but look, I actually really appreciate knowing you and everything you've shared with us, because it's something that there's so much in the world that we don't know about. Let's face it. And that is fine. I don't think any one person can know everything or even a little bit of everything. There is such a huge world of information, whatever you want to say, from any angle, history, geography, everything. But if there's one thing most of us have no idea about, but we're so impacted about as well at the same time, which is the cyber world, because we're all in it. Let's face it. So I think that's what makes this conversation even more interesting, because yes, again, you know, like I think knowing some of the basics of cybersecurity, I think would be important for all of us, you know, at least to know. And then, okay, if you willingly want to give up your privacy or your security, let's say, then fine, so be it. But most of us are doing things every day we're not even aware of that we're doing.
It's
look,
again, I am nowhere near an expert.
But that's your world.
Yeah, look, for me,
and you're going deeper into it.
What I studied was a basically license for me to actually go out and learn more about, you know, cybersecurity, protecting things. In terms of talking about privacy, I think people ought to think, you know, it's not that I'm doing nothing wrong.
Sure.
So I don't care about. No, it actually matters on a lot of levels. You know, it's like someone telling me, look, I'm gonna get changed and I don't care if someone's watching me. Well, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But what the hell are you saying?
Yeah. Look, there's one thing that I want to finish this sort of cybersecurity talk with. You got to do us a very special favor for Paulie and for I before we go back to your DJ.
Hacking? Paulie, what am I?
No. I don't want you to hack into anything like that, brother. You know, we want you to go get a job at Asia. Yeah. Turn Edward Snowden. Become the Aussie Edward Snowden. And then I can be like Joe Rogan and get you on the podcast a couple of times and we can have a killer fucking show. All right?
Yeah.
Done deal.
Got it.
Thank you so much. My man. Brother, I wanted to share some of your cool photos, man, from your times as a DJ, because I want to go into a lot of the cool gigs that you've done, some of the more memorable moments, perhaps some of the tracks you've released over the years. I know that you've done some pretty cool gigs and festivals and things. So we've got our little show and tell segment that we like to do.
Sure.
And the only thing I must do with all these shows is, we do get a lot of people listening on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So I'll just give a very brief explanation of what it is that I see. But I very much would love you to delve into the images that's being shown on the screen, and you can give us some background or whatever it is that comes to mind.
Rafa,
when we do.
He had no embarrassing photos.
No embarrassing.
Brother,
listen.
Now it makes sense why.
Cybersecurity expert. Yeah. You think he's going to have any embarrassing photos?
Yeah,
squeaky clean.
Cover your traces. But again, being in the digital world, I've always known this about the internet.
What did you say?
We didn't ask Pavel because they like to hang out.
Sure.
I'm very wary of, because I've always knew this about the internet. It's people overlook the part where, especially with Facebook. For example, when I created Facebook, this was purely for the DJ aspect. I do not care to have a personal. I do not actually believe in the idea that someone should be bothered with looking at what other people do on a daily basis.
I hear you.
It is completely
so you're more of a
toxifying.
You're a MySpace kind of person.
I used to use MySpace, but again, this was for music. When you look at things, I think people are using social media incorrectly. Completely, it's depressing.
I agree.
This is another discussion we can have, but
no, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Facebook.
It's like fucking confession for a lot of people, man.
Just music. It was a page, to promote this musical identity.
I hear you, bro.
That's it. Look, I don't need a person. What I do in my life, no one gives a flying fuck about.
Sure. And you like to keep it that way.
And certainly, when someone clicks like or comments, well, they're literally moving their fingers. So don't take it too.
Yeah, I think that's one thing people forget.
Don't take it seriously that they actually care, because some of them might care, but in broad scheme of things, social media is great.
That's a whole nother conversation in among social media and its interaction, cause and effect, and what's going on with the world, and the impact that it's having on humanity.
It'll be an epidemic, and I'll remind you of this, Rafa. It'll be worse.
I don't think it will be. I think it is.
Probably, sorry.
And it's been for a while, and it's just sort of morphing into something that I think was quite benevolent and quite a positive impact at the start. It almost felt like it had this community feel to it, and it had this connectedness. And now it just seemed to morph into this ugly thing, which is taking away so much of the essence of what it is to be a human being.
And I think people are blind by how actually impactful it is, because you're not actually addicted to chemicals. And he's not shooting up in the corner. No. He's not doing whatever drugs on the train. Yeah. The fact that this is a complete internal mental addiction model,
no doubt about it.
It's perfect. It's but it's just for young people, I think it's you feel bad because you're like parents don't have the knowledge to actually bring up kids in a socially flooded environment safely. I don't believe kids should have any exposure to social media up until 18. You're developing your personality. You're developing your brain.
Yes.
Flawed by looking at your friends. Flawed by completely obsessing with your personal image. Flawed.
100% agree.
You smile when you look at a camera, but the next minute you're actually sad. You have a lot of troubles that you're not facing. So I think
we're on the same page, man. Yeah, no doubt about
media, Look, it's great that I can actually, pick up the thing, message Rafa, message someone that's far away, message someone that
that's the awesome side about it.
I do love that fact about what it brought to to the table. But now we're dealing with more how to keep people basically hooked on the dopamine cycle, and it's very simple one because people think it's very complex, but with Facebook, with Instagram, with
Mm.
anything, the idea is very simple. When you anticipate something new is coming, your brain releases dopamine, makes you happy. For example, you're traveling tomorrow.
That's right.
You tell yourself, well,
Yeah.
I'm excited. So your brain releases dopamine. You get excited and you feel happy.
Sure.
Now, just keep in mind that this model is in everything concerned with social media, be it YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Sure.
Every time you're swiping,
That's right.
you have no idea what's coming from the
right.
bottom of the screen. But you're anticipating something and you tell your brain, look, this is going to be cool. There's something that will excite me. Could let you down, could excite you. But if it lets you down, then you're like, I'm going to take another hit.
That's right.
Swipe one more time.
It's like a gambler.
Again, it's same with YouTube. Look, I use YouTube, but it's the idea that sometimes you'd sit for 10, 15 minutes, just tick, tick, tick. Every time you click on something, you build this anticipation for you, and you're like, okay, look, this video is actually really going to nail my expectation.
Yeah.
So again, it's a very simple addiction model. I think people really need to learn how to filter information, how to consume.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much
information.
information.
Put your phone down, Definitely put your phone down. There's a thing to pick your phone up and have a look.
I love the do not disturb function. There's a little moon. For most people don't know, you just swipe down, control panel, see a little moon. That means do not disturb. I do this, a lot of the time. Just do it because you cannot multitask. You can fragment your attention. Fair enough, sure. You have 100%.
Which is not.
You can give 30, 10.
Sure.
But to actually focus on something, you need to be completely away from any distractions.
And I think that's one thing that as a humanity we still do not know what the long-term impacts are, because forever we've had that thing where we were operating for centuries, not entirely uninterrupted, but definitely with nowhere near as much interruptions as we have now. That contactability, where you're constantly, anyone can call you at any time, anyone can reach you at any time. And also this thing that's constantly sending you back to social media. Oh, what's going on? I want to have a look. I want to have a look. It's like that sugar rush. And, a lot of the greatest ideas of humanity came from several hours perhaps of going down that tunnel of focus and attention without interruptions. A led to B and B to C and D and at the end Z. Great idea.
Come up with a solution.
Great idea. That's right. Whereas now we go A to C, back to A, thinking, I'll just go back to C, and then no, but it doesn't work like that. So these interruptions, it's a science experiment. We and as a matter of fact, people are overstimulated. Way too overstimulated. Kids are overstimulated.
We're swimming in a sea of stimulation.
Swimming in a sea of stimulation. Amen.
Look, they're literally like people are becoming dopamine junkies.
Yes, my friend.
But you see,
and there's no happiness in that, yeah.
No. Look, it's if
there's no peace.
If you over pleasure that sensory sort of system,
that's right.
You will deplete your dopamine. Not to say you can't. No, you will feel happiness again in your life. But what I'm saying is, the brain area responsible for the dopamine secretion, this whole system, eventually gets tired because you are constantly working it. The idea is, if I'm traveling, I am not traveling every minute of the day. I don't get this anticipation every minute of the day.
Right.
So you're really like stressing a system that doesn't have time to rest. So you put you see with a lot of young people, they put their phone down, and just without any reason, they would instantly they feel the drop in the dopamine. So they would pick it up, anticipating that, look, I'm even just to unlock it to look at the phone. Maybe they want to see a notification as one or whatever.
I see what's on my news feed. Yeah.
So it becomes this, anxious sort of anxious battle.
Yeah.
Cycle. Kids can't sit still. Why? Because
that's right.
Again, if you wanna do like advertise this for parents to be actually aware of, well, picture this: kid sitting in dinner. As soon as he sits down, then he rolls a joint of weed and smokes it quickly just to calm down. slowly, and then he does it again. Obviously, that would be not acceptable. I mean,
No,
so
fuck
someone
no. That's right.
grabs a syringe of heroin and just say, when you think of this is we actually kids are doing this in front of parents, with parents, sort of.
Man, I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible.
Look, I mean, people say that Steve Jobs didn't give his kids iPads until they're sort of 18.
I've
which
seen that.
This is something I would probably do in my personal
I read
life.
that in Wired magazine.
Look,
Yeah.
kids do not need a phone. Ugh, look, I was born in, the days when you used to call your friend from the landline. Just tell them, look, mate, I'll meet you at this. That's it.
Yeah, I hear you, bro.
During that time, your brain was actually clear.
Yeah, your life was
brain
yours. Yeah.
You could think clearly.
Yeah, and imagination.
Absolutely, creativity,
imagination
all that.
took flight,
Right.
particularly when we're children. That's where imagination has to. It actually plays a huge role. Imagination, and one tries to go back to one's own childhood, and obviously I was pre cyber world, pre-digital, pre all of that, and essentially the whole time you were imagining things, playing with little toy soldiers and building pretend the battle scenes and building pretend race circuits with your little cars, and the whole time you're imagining things. You're using these little tools, these little toys and whatever. You get sand and you build a castle and then pretend that was your castle. And, the whole time it's imagination.
And I think that's very
It's
crucial.
been like that for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions, depends who you speak to. And all of a sudden in the last, 10, 15 years, finished.
Yeah.
So how's that going to impact us? And that's a question.
No idea.
And I think we'll save that one for another day. But back to show and tell. This is what I love about Andy, man.
Put
This is
on
what
a slideshow.
Paulie, are you going to take control of this fucking show or what? Aren't you supposed to be the producer, brother?
Yeah, true, but it's very interesting.
Fuck.
I'm just focusing on our clips. And,
Okay. Yeah, see, he's got the producer cap on. This is a gun photo, man. The first thing I see here, I actually love that pendant that you're wearing, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's what do you call that? The stone.
Don't have to be specifics. I think
the
it looks
turquoise,
good.
turquoise. But it's a good look, my friend. What's going on here, bro?
So this is actually with a good photographer friend of mine, is Martin Vivian Pierce. Great photographer.
Sure.
Literally, it was a photo shoot that I've done ages. Sort of, I'm due for a new one, but yes, this
just
was,
like press photos and
just
for Andy
press
F, the
photos
DJ,
for
DJ Andy F.
Andy EF or Andy F, Andy EF or
EF.
That's initially how it was EF.
Okay,
yes, EF
you'd have to put a dot in there somewhere though, wouldn't you?
No, but I don't like the look of the dot. That's the thing.
All right, well then fuck yeah, we're calling you
Mate,
Andy F.
F or EF.
Andy
it
EF.
was,
It is whatever you want,
I think
man.
2000. When was it? I don't remember. 18 or.
Yeah, the dot doesn't work, brother. You're right. Now that I think about it.
When you look at it, like.
So all right. So why Andy EF?
Purely, I mean, a lot of people do ask me this, but it's purely for the look of the uppercase E and the lowercase f. Purely for the physical aspects of, so if you do E and F or uppercase, it just...
Explain.
So if you look at an uppercase E and a lowercase f,
sure,
it's almost like they contrast with each other, the E and F. There's no mean. If you do an uppercase E and F, it almost like they're one part. So it's just the idea that there's the E and the lowercase f. It's gonna sort of sits inside.
Okay.
But it was purely for just
That's probably some of that Egyptian hieroglyphic kind of shit that you got in your DNA. And one night when you had a big bender, you go the E and the F.
That was before benders.
my man. That's a gunshot too, man. Yeah, same shoot, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a couple of photos of Andy, some of his press shots, looking very cool, very funky with his Adidas. I got a couple of pairs of those, I think, man. Yeah. I'm watching. I'm looking. Next one, please, Paulie.
Another one.
Looking very cool, very suave. My man, Sadiki.
Actually, you're the first one to see this. It was in the folder. I'm like, you know what? I think this looks good. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're
man.
like,
Yeah, well, it's good to go back on, revisit things and you go,
yeah,
oh,
you're
that's
like, you
not
know what?
bad.
Yeah, might
Yeah.
try them. This was actually at Cafe Del Mar. It was Nick Warren.
In Darling Harbour,
Yeah.
on Cafe del Mar. Yeah, it's a cool
So
venue,
it's
right?
one of
Yeah.
one of probably my favorite venues. For
In the balcony, no?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's for Nick Warren. Is again one of my sort of idols. Big inspirations. Yeah, so it's a really good sort of memorable gig, and the terrace at Cafe Del Mar is just.
It's pretty cool,
yeah,
eh?
it's, just amazing that you're in Sydney on the harbour, and this whole balcony is just stacked with people. So it's
Yeah, I wonder when these cunts are gonna let us get back into it, man. It's ridiculous now, man.
a friend of mine actually is a well-known promoter, the guys that run Sash, but they're looking at maybe next year, worst case, which is detrimental
joke,
to a lot of
you got
not just us.
This weekend you got 100,000 people packed in stadiums for the footy. We've had
I do not get
40,000 people in stadiums for the past few weeks, watching sporting events, and you're telling me you can't open up a venue with 500 people, 300 people inside.
It's
embarrassing.
Yeah,
embarrassing.
The damage is you can't even comprehend the damage, but I don't think.
I know. I like the zebra on the t-shirt, bro.
Thanks.
It's pretty cool, man.
Egyptian zebra.
Doing his thing.
No, I'm joking.
An
African zebra.
That's a cool shot, man, Manu. Very good shot, man.
Yeah,
Next
great
one, please,
photographer
Paulie.
Boaz. That's another picture at Return to Rio.
So this is inside the tent, the Return to Rio, right?
This is actually the Rio Resort. The Rio Resort.
Yes.
Yeah, that was basically.
Yeah, this is the one in Wise Man's Ferry, up just north of
yeah.
Sydney that they were doing once a year. It's a pretty cool gig, no? It's cool,
Mate,
it's a cool festival.
I personally I think it's one of the best festivals. I'm very good friends with the directors, the people that run it.
Carl Cox has played there a few times.
Yeah,
no?
yeah, he's very good friends with Ricky. So Ricky Cooper and
okay.
his wife, they run the brand. But yeah, look, we've always been good friends, and it means a lot to me. Just the support they've given, but also it's more the friendship. But the support that I've given, the
great platform. As a DJ,
sure,
great stage, a lot of big names.
They've
great
always been
vibe.
nice to me. I've always played main stage, so I can't be really.
Awesome.
It's always been.
One of the highlights, no? Return to Rio.
Definitely. Look, Return to Rio is definitely one of the.
Well, they get like 5,000 people, no?
Yeah, like 3.5, 4. Electric Gardens was another big one at Centennial Park. So
Centennial.
That
Do we have any pictures of that?
12,000, 13.
But do we have any pictures of it on your?
No, not
Okay,
here
cool.
actually. It's
Well, let's have a look at these anyway, my brother.
Oh! This was actually
You're in the fucking Top Gun glasses there, no?
The live stream. It's actually the first set that I recorded
Egyptian
for Burning
Tom
Man
Cruise.
this year.
Fully loves it. Is this now? This is more recent.
This is
it?
basically
Couple months ago.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
We're at the Intercontinental, so they were nice to us to use the actual top terrace.
Playing to an empty.
Yeah, so
empty
basically,
venue,
I recorded it. This was the first set that I've done for Burning Man.
Oh, okay.
So this was just purely, but we've used sort of that, I guess, rock
Backdrop.
Yeah, the backdrop just with a nice sort of rock, because again, it was a virtual Burning Man. So where I was playing in a castle. So
Like a green screen type thing.
In a way, yes. It was a big it's like a virtual castle. So you walk into the castle with your phone, and then you see the DJs at the end. So it was like a screen, and then they would map the video onto that screen.
Okay.
So people walk.
But are you sitting in front of a green screen?
No. It was just me. So.
Okay. So they kind of slotted into their VR.
It was perfect because at the Intercontinental, you had actually this wall of rocks.
Okay.
So it makes sense. You walk into a castle. The backdrops, and I just used that. And the other one was basically just the live. Basically, the second set was a live, so we recorded it from a
I haven't seen the Burning Man stuff, but I saw Tomorrowland's one. The whole VR thing. Yeah, they did something. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
All like digital and shit.
I wasn't aware of that.
It's pretty. I don't know. They're trying their best, but to me, it's pretty.
Look, I think people are doing a great job. Actually, just trying to present still something.
Yeah.
To the people,
to me, knowing what I know. it's the whole thing's fucking whack.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah, I know,
you
yeah.
can't. There's none of that without people contacting and being together. It's just rubbish. Paulie, what's happening, brother?
I have a question for my fellow Egyptian.
Sure,
Go
Paulie.
for it, Habibi.
Favorite Egyptian food?
Oh,
What's your favorite?
Tagine. Okra tagine.
Okay, just to narrow the question, like street food, something that you can
Oof.
easily grab in the street, or
You want to
we-
fuck around with a real Egyptian? That's what you get, brother.
okay, look, I mean,
I was
I
hoping
love.
you would say molkhaya, but hey, fuck.
So no, one of my friend actually always asks me, he's like, when are you gonna invite me over? My mom does the best molokhaya. She's a great chef, great person. Molokhaya and definitely vine leaves, the Egyptian way of doing it. The
Bro.
vine leaves that you buy in a kebab shop are, and I hope no one gets that garbage.
Yeah.
So I'll get you over one.
You're talking about dolmades.
Dolmades, yeah.
What,
Yeah, dolmades.
What or like,
Yeah, dolmades. Yeah.
yeah,
Because
Same.
what would your favorite dish be, Paulie?
No, it's molkhaya, but it's like
Molkhaya is
it's a
like-
winter sort of food. But I'm really
a green
thinking-
smoothie. It's
Yeah,
a
he's-
hot green
He's,
smoothie.
The toilet
I've had it in Egypt. I've had
did
it,
you?
it's
Nice.
the soup,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
Use it like bread.
Yeah. I had it. I remember.
Don't say bread around Rafa.
What do you mean? I eat bread. I actually bread. It's one of those things that it's such a part of like my culture or whatever that I might not
Yeah,
have
it
it
is,
every day, but then I can easily 3-4 days of having
Yeah.
bread and things. It's just one of those things. I try and find better breads and things like
for
that
sure.
because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can, it's quite nasty. But speaking of Egyptian food, I had the soup. It was nice. It was like it didn't feel like a main though. It felt like a side thing.
Yeah, just. Have you had koshari?
Which one's that one?
It's like the mix of lentils, like pasta, lentils, beans. It's like a mix.
I don't think
It's
I've had that
mainly a
one.
carb sort of. It's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
one of my sort of second favorite.
I'll tell you a few
dishes.
things I absolutely loved in Egypt. The Egyptian falafel,
Mm.
which is made with fava beans,
Proper
not with
falafel,
chickpeas.
طعمية. That's
Yeah.
actually, again, I try it here. I'm like, it
No.
doesn't taste.
But your guys' falafel is different, bro. Because
Oh,
I mean,
look.
they told us that we don't make it with chickpeas, we make it with fava beans.
Yeah.
So it's really green, like
Yeah,
like
it's
a
green.
rich green inside. Yeah.
And it tastes. It just.
Yeah.
It's
Something else that blew me away, the tagine.
oh. Yeah,
Beautiful.
This is
I had
like
all
the-
different ones. I had
the munchy
vegetarian
plates.
ones. Yeah, I had the ones with okra and all these different ones. Amazing, really nice. Another thing that blew me away was the fresh. It'll come back to me in a second. What's that fruit?
What does it look like?
The red
Pomegranate.
pomegranate
Oh, yeah.
juice, man, on the
They
street.
love it there. It's like
Wow, the pomegranate juice and the sugarcane
yeah.
juice.
Oh man, sugarcane juice there.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, incredible.
yeah, it's like everywhere.
And it's
The
everywhere,
shops
yeah.
all- yeah,
Yeah, because the Nile River, the banks of the Nile River floods and the sugar cane just grows crazy.
Yeah,
And in
sugarcane
all
is
those
very popular.
side canals and stuff that they've built, which is amazing. I
Yeah.
think it was King Nasser. But the one thing that hands down is the best thing I've ever tried as far as citrics, Egyptian lime. What the fuck is Egyptian lime, man? Those little limes like this that you guys have that are super
Yeah.
juicy, and it's got a flavor profile of everything. It's like even like
Could be
salty.
soil. I mean,
Oh no, of course it's got a lot to do with soil and whatever.
but yeah, it's definitely more fluid,
super juicy,
like packed.
super juicy.
Yeah.
Very thin skin, very small. Lots of seeds, which
Mm.
most people say is bad, but I actually think is good because it means it's real, it's alive. It's not none of this
Yeah, it's
seedless shit that we're eating.
Not
everywhere
fully
now.
polished.
Yeah.
It's like, no seeds, no
Yeah,
scuff
yeah,
marks.
yeah,
and
that's right.
nothing.
Super sweet and nah. By the way, guys, don't eat seedless stuff here. It's no good.
Right.
It actually messes a lot with our own system. Yeah, of course. You're eating something that's been, genetically manipulated. It's not very good for you.
And you had some pretty good hummus there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like proper,
Yeah. No.
proper
We had,
hummus.
the funny thing, we were staying for the last leg of the trip. We stayed across the street from the Giza Plateau. Well, within the Giza,
right, yeah.
across the street from the Giza Plateau, and it was a beautiful hotel with views of the pyramids and swimming pool and all these things, and the restaurant downstairs, the buffet was off its fucking head, right?
Yeah,
Incredible.
They're big
But
on food.
They were charging essentially, let's say, double the price you would in Sydney. This was a 5-star job, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're definitely ones for spending money on good food, but there's one thing I never like doing is going to other countries and spending my money on big multinational hotel chains and stuff. I want to go to the...
on the street, given a good area, you'd actually get much authentic good
Yeah,
value.
well, the thing is, we walk, because we're a little bit more adventurous. We walked outside and obviously everybody's like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Do you want a taxi? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to go for a fucking walk, man. Fuck off. Yeah, I'm cool, Man, I was walking around fucking Aswan looking for a barber shop, It was ghetto ass, but, and they were looking, and a lot of places, everywhere we went, they were looking at my woman like crazy because she wasn't covered and everything.
Yeah,
and they were
it
was a big shock. Plus an Asian lady. Man, we had people stopping her for photos. They'll give her, like, ladies covered up will come up and say, please, here, take my baby, I want a photo. And they'll take a photo, not her in the shot, as in my woman with the baby.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And they'll go, thank you, take the baby back and run off. We're like, what the fuck? Anyway, we walked outside of this 5-star hotel, 50 meters to the left, and there was a little Egyptian restaurant. Nothing. Like, we would eat, all three of us, for $15. But like
a proper
I'm talking banquet. Like my woman, she eats a lot. She'll have 2 plates of a main. She's a beast. Plus, we were climbing pyramids and going down tombs and shit all day. So when it was on,
Mate,
it was
you're
on.
hungry. Like, give me some proper food.
And it was true quality Egyptian food, and it felt good because you were being served by true Egyptian people, local people, and you know that your money is going to local people as well, not some
and getting much more authentic actually experience.
100%, bro.
Hotels are nice.
Yep.
If you're the kind that you want to just laze around, you don't want to really do much. Fair enough.
No.
Stick to the hotel buffet.
No, it was good to get
you're
out.
missing
man.
on a lot of experiences, which
And down in Aswan, we had some awesome feeds as well, mate. And just the Nile River was just spectacular.
I haven't actually been to Aswan when I was
little. It's a long way south.
I was in a cruise actually, just going down the Nile, but I was probably too young to remember what happened.
It's hotter than a motherfucker.
I do remember I used to go on the piano on the deck.
Really?
Used to mess out when no one was sitting.
Oh, wow.
I used to play on it. But yeah, no.
And
I think
the
Aswan
EF and the EF was already working his and the EF was already working his magic, with the keyboard. Paulie, was there more photos there, brother?
I think I've limited
he
my...
was a bit afraid
These
of
fucking
us.
cybersecurity
I
experts.
didn't know actually the purpose. If you knew, I would have brought you
some
memories.
so it's a miscommunication by Paulie, is it?
Something just popped up on our computer. Something just popped up. It says Andy Rules. I don't know if that was preset.
Andy Rules.
No, it's literally a folder that had DJ and press. And I was like, okay, they're probably looking for something to use for artwork. If I knew, then mate, there's a plethora of images,
my man,
publicly available.
We're gonna have to come back. Andy, one thing I wanted to do. So obviously, if people want to find you, check out your music, because you're doing lots of shit. Like even now through COVID, you're doing all these streams. Like, I remember last time you were telling me about some of the more movie type stuff with more visuals and everything. How's that going?
So I'm definitely. So basically, I'm in the process of starting my own. It's the idea of cinematically presenting DJ sets.
Sure.
So I've got a bit of background in terms of like video work or cinematography using so for me the idea was not really to present DJs in like at a unique site, but the idea is how to present them. So it could be a nice, for example, nice terrace, a nice backdrop. How can you present this in a visual form that's very appealing, almost like movie-like?
Yeah.
but you're still presenting a DJ playing a live set.
Sure.
So it have different angles.
And
so
where's that at?
So this is in the process. So
Ah, okay,
basically
sure.
just scheduled a few DJs to
Awesome.
start, because again I was very busy with uni.
Yeah, man.
But look, I still do monthly sort of mixes. So every
Where
month
can we
I
find
do
those?
Soundcloud.com.
Okay.
It's
What is
Andy
your sound?
space EF.
Andy Space EF
Yeah. So
on
if
SoundCloud.
you just search the title, you would
Sure.
pop up. To be specific, soundcloud.com/Andy-EF.
Andy-EF.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
but
yeah, look, I do monthly mixes. A lot of the mixes are there, just as a, just for listeners to sort of get an idea of, again for promotion, but it's more just as my sort of select, top select, I guess, for the month. Every month I get a lot of.
And you put your own tracks in the mix as well sometimes.
Well, recently not, but I've just
You
finished
haven't been
the EP
putting
set.
any out.
Yeah, no, because obviously all the releases were sort of back then, and I've had to learn a lot through the years. So I've been mainly mixing, obviously, other people's tracks, friends,
Sure.
it could be. But obviously now that I'm sort of back in the studio, so it's also nice because probably got to do less to study this summer. So it's kind of nice because, again, for me, productions, you really need to be in a good headspace to do it.
Yes.
I am not one to put it.
Yes.
Look, I drink whiskey every now and then, but I'm not one to sort of, for example, some people might smoke weed and produce. Some people might drink and produce. I don't really believe in the idea that you're aided by the substance, which I don't think it's great. Like, it's not creatively sort of myself if I do that. So it'll always change your intention, always change your feelings. So I sort of need to be in that. So I mean, with uni, it's very hard because I finished that EP. Each track was probably done in 4 or 5 hours. So fully arranged for everything.
I've got something for you that might change your mind about not making music on substances.
Look. I think there's a benefit. There's a benefit to hear from it, to listen to it differently. But for me, I think it's just that clarity. Okay, if I have a certain feeling that I want to, portray, it's you need.
Look, there's a word that my father famously didn't coin, but he sort of sprung on us: microdosing.
Yeah,
microdosing.
No, look, I've heard a lot. There's a few people that I know that do it, and I believe there's a great, benefit to just the creativity of any one person just doing that.
No doubt about it.
Like I said, look, in medical papers now they're using MDMA to treat a lot of. Of
course. Well, that's what it was designed for.
Disorders. Again, this is
psilocybin
clean,
as
pure. MDMA used in normal human doses. So look, there is a benefit. It's just how people use it. Like I said,
the intention and its use.
Look,
I most people that know me know that drugs are not a thing for me. It's not like I don't have a problem with them. I don't partake in them. But I have found that in psychedelics, particularly DMT, and we've spoken at length on the show about it. That's far from recreational. It's a journey. It's actually work. It's not. It can be fun, but it's not exactly fun. It can be quite intense and dissolving your ego and doing all these things. These are not pleasurable experiences, but they do lead to lots of great things. But I think that all drugs are misused. And
like food.
Yes, like food, like a lot of these things. And unfortunately, the white man, because it is the white man, has always, synthesized and distilled and taken something which was originally perhaps well-intentioned or used in the right way. Like, for example, coca leaf in the Americas. Coca leaf is probably the most sacred plant to a lot of the indigenous people from the Andes of the Americas. A lot of their their rituals involve coca leaf, and they pray with the coca leaf, and they have their totems with the coca leaf, and it's actually, I experienced it myself. I arrived into Cusco very sick from the Amazon because after spending nearly a week and a half with a tribe, the ceremonial drink, I believe that's what it was, the ceremonial drink on the very last day that they gave me, which was slightly alcoholic, was made with river water. And I've been sick a few times overseas with stomach stuff, but I've never been. This was horrible. I was fucking yellow. I arrived in Cusco, There's a liquid coming out of both ends. And anyway, the taxi driver actually said to me, when you run into the pharmacy, get what you got to get. He goes, but there's a bag, and thankfully I speak Spanish. There's a bag of, everywhere you go in these regions of Peru, there's coca leaves everywhere, like in little baskets and things next to where you make the tea and whatever. And he said, you need coca tea and you need coca leaf. So I took the meds to stop running, and also I started drinking coca leaf, and within 6 hours I was cured.
It definitely helps.
Definitely, I could actually feel it working in my stomach. Stomach. And then the other thing too is when I was in high altitude, because some of those places you go to from memory are about between 3 and 3,500 meters. So it's up there.
Yeah.
This is the whole Inca Trail, Machu Picchu, Ollantaytambo, the whole thing. Altitude sickness, I did not suffer. Now you can't necessarily put that down strictly to coca leaf, but coca leaf is known to be an altitude sickness suppressor. But I remember chewing lots of coca leaf, and it does give you a kick. It's like a coffee type thing. Right?
It's
and I remember running bouncing around like a rabbit through the mountains, the hills, because sometimes the tour guides will say, all right, you've got half an hour here, and literally I was like, half an hour, all right, and I'll just be running with this other guy that was roughly my age. Everyone else was older. We were competing around but anyway, back to the story. I think all of these things, marijuana is a huge example of something that's been completely corrupted and misused and hybridized and fucking ruined, because it is one of the world's great master plants. It's been used for millennia, and then likewise you could say the same thing pretty much about all the drugs, whether they be strictly good or bad for you in a scientific or in a whatever medicinal way. They definitely would be much better for you if the intention was right, and perhaps if the dose was a little lower, because people do it to blow their fucking brains off instead of getting to a good place. You know what I'm saying? And generally speaking, there's a lot of well-educated drug takers in the world, but I think that
it's also understanding your body. I think it's
yes, my friend.
The minute you know this, you're like, okay, this actually works, this doesn't work, and I think this is like a great equilibrium when you reach this state.
But let's face it, they've always been there. They'll always be there. So instead of burying our head in the sand and try and pretend that they don't exist, I think we should be handling things a lot differently.
See what makes you happy without
overdoing
negatively affecting you.
No doubt about it, man. Yeah, and I think the first thing is intention. Intention has to be completely different, But hopefully humanity is going down that path. So back to you, soundcloud.com/Andy-EF.
Yes, that's it.
Instagram?
I do. It's _AndyEF, just all in one word.
Sure.
I post every now and then. Like I said, I'm not a person.
Not too active on Insta. Sure. Gigs?
It's
upcoming gigs?
I've actually got so the next one is actually at the Burdekin Hotel. It's a sit down. It's by Blueprint, the promoter Blueprint.
You do a lot of work with Blueprint, right? Yeah.
I'm one of the residents. Ben's,
good boys are here.
Of mine.
Look forward to meeting them one day.
No, hopefully I think it'll be doable.
Of course,
next one's actually on a boat on the 7th of November.
Sure.
That's already sold out, which is interesting. But again, sitting down. For
Not
the guys that actually
too.
did that event at Cafe Del Mas, it's the same brand, the Boots and Cats. Very good friends of mine.
Rob Richards.
No, it's Boots and Cats, the other brand. So it was Rod Richards and the other brand.
Okay, that was a collab. Fair enough. Sure.
That's on the 7th, and then I think I'm playing Sash hosting Return to Rio on the 17th or 15th of November, something.
So there are something. The engine is slowly,
it's
slowly
nice because it's like
kicking
summer,
over and coming to life.
It'll be all sitting down, so it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, we've had enough. Fucking just open up now, Jesus.
I've been sitting at home enough now.
I know. Well, full power to you, man. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, man.
Appreciate you having me.
A brother, a friend, a gentleman.
More to come. Thank you.
A talented man. and a bit of a beast too in the production and also with this cybersecurity stuff, man, which is super interesting to me,
Thank you,
man.
look,
So
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
no, thank you so much, and thank you so much for all the help you've given us, man, in setting up the
least I
studio
can
and
do, if I
everything.
can help.
Habibi, shukran kathir. Oh, we finished with a clap. You're the first one, man. Normally we're gonna clap at the start and that's it. Fuck off. It must be an Egyptian thing.
Probably.
Fucking biased. Anyway, before we go, man, I just want to say a real quick thank you to our foundation sponsors, Crash Claim, Meeting New Friends by Accident, and also Q Corp Construction, and the premiere, because we've got some new people joining us, and I'd like to say a very, 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 very special thank you to Open for Australia. Open for Australia, they're our new foundation sponsor. We'd like to thank you so much for your support, Open for Australia. We're going to have a lot more of the information on our socials and on our website. And also a big shout out to our supporter, because we have a new supporter, which is Variant Collective out of Melbourne. Shout out to Nelson. They're going to be providing us with awesome social media coverage and content support. So thank you so much to Variant Collective. And again, to all of our foundation sponsors. And most importantly, to everybody tuning in at home, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Paulie. Again, thank you, Andy. God bless my brother. Thank you so much, guys. Gracias. Woohoo!
Yeah, that was actually fun. Jeez.
Of course.
Did you do like 3 hours or?
Yeah, probably.